My guest now is Rudolph Charles, who is from Desperados. Rudolph, what position do you have in the band?
Oh, I'm the leader of the group. Also, I'm one of the designers and creator of Desper's new type instruments.
Repeat that again.
New type instruments.
Uh-huh. All right. I've heard so much talk about you as a leader. You're very inspirational to the men. You live part of the year abroad and so on. What I want to find out, if in your words, how do you determine yourself as being that kind of dynamic leader? What qualities do you see yourself having to be able to lead a group like Despers?
Well, Desper's is a very professional band. Professional not only in attitude, but I mean the playing ability then. But what's different about Despers, mainly because it's the type of community it belongs to then. Like for instance, Lavanti, in the older days, they used to fight for leadership, you know. But I was different. Leadership was handed down to me. So this is why I'm very fortunate to be able to lead as far out in Los Angeles. I have control here then, because for the leadership now to be turned over, I will have to turn it over to somebody then. And so the elders then at the hill then, who used to fight, who fought then in those days for leadership, a new system was introduced then, because they were kind of eliminating each other and so on then.
This, more or less, one can say, is a perfect example of an African heritage.
Of course, yeah. This tribalism still exists on the hill.
So you have the hill here, more or less consists of perhaps some of Trinidad's purest African retention.
Yeah, one of the Bowens, if you interview Sydney Bowen then, who's one of the Bowen family, watch the face, the context, you can see they're definitely African. There are a lot of families on the hill here that basically is untouched by the French influence or the English influence or any Spanish influence. This is why I believe the reason for this is mainly because of the militancy of the hill then. And if you had enough time then, you're going to check out some of these families, various families on the hill.
I think I would have to leave that as a distinct project, the African retention on the hill here, that I could perhaps come back and go around and talk to a lot of these people.
Yeah, because I go right around Shango, and Shango is a cult from Africa, and I go just next door to it then. So I could say like I know a lot about Shango, which I wouldn't discuss in any interview then, because it's something supposed to be secret then.
Yeah.
So, but I go right around Shango, and the Shango still exists on the hill. Some of the cult and practice of Africa.
So it still exists on the hill here?
Yes.
I have done some interviews on Shango, and I know a very good friend in Shango, Molly Ahi, who's done some studies on it.
Well, I don't know if Molly Ahi is Shango. I've never heard about her.
In terms of studying it?
Yeah, well, studying it. She probably may be an authority more than me on it. I'm not an authority on it. And the man that had most of the history on Shango and thing was the late Andrew Carr.
Right.
You see, he was pestered with knowledge, not only on Shango, but the history of Trinidad then.
Right, yeah. I was now coming up the hill with my friend, and I was saying that, Despers is a real fantastic band. I said, but this community, in fact, even talking to George Yates last night, I said, I wondered, if you were to take Despers away from this community, what would happen? Would this community disintegrate? What would happen?
Well, I won't say disintegrate then, but they would cease to exist as a real vibrant community then. You see, Despers is Lavanti. Lavanti is Despers then. And because of this then, if we have problems and we have greatness, and we have to take the boat, we have to take the boat together then, for instance. You would find a Desperados then, who consider himself Desperado, don't pay band fees. And look for all the privileges that handed down to the panmen too. The supporters look forward for it, like going into dances without paying, which is pretty bad for us, we create a bad reputation for that, lost a lot of jobs, but you can't stop a man from thinking that he's part of something when he knows he's part of it then.
Yeah.
So this we can't differentiate there, so although it's good then, it's also bad, and bad economic. If you go down to economics, then it's really bad.
You feel that this is Despers by virtue of all of this today is the most distinctive band?
Yeah, well, that's why it's the best band, and has been for many years. Then, like we took over in '66. Each band had a period. Then, like they were in the early days, the Pan Am North Stars were a very great band, and the leader was a very great innovator too. Then, very scientific, and of course he's gone crazy now. So this is what I heard, and it's very unfortunate. But there were great bands before us, and we are just taking over where other bands left off then. And I haven't stopped from '66 to now. I haven't stopped the race then because I got to find out that pan is like space. It's kind of unlimited. When you feel you reached a point, then you have to go all over again.
Right.
And
Now this leads me into my next question as regards your inventions, because of your creativity. You have put Desperados in the limelight as a trendsetter. Could you reveal some of the things that you've done and the time periods that you've done these things?
Oh, well, the first thing I did was put my pan in perfect pitch, which was concert C then. I'm not the first band did it. I think Invaders is the first band did it then. But I, what we call superfine the pitch, like there's a A440, A442, A444 then. All related to concert C then. But you use A as a guideline because there's where the alphabetical order started. So we used the A440 at 1 year, then we moved to A442. We started experimenting with pitch. By experimenting with pitch then, we start experimenting with range of instrument. So we start putting different range instrument in different sections of the band then. And one of the first inventions that I came up with was with the 9 bass. Because bass in itself is an imperfected pan in the steel band, and it carries less vibratic formula. Then it's very poor. So the first thing we do was perfect our basses and get it to sound like strings. Then from there we move into the front line. We invented the quadraphonic pan, the triple second pan, the triple tenor, the baritone pan, which is a band dedicated to Bertie Marshall. And this year we introduced the harmony pan. We introduced the fifth tenor pan going clockwise. Well, the fifth, we can't say we invented it, but we introduced it because the circular fifth has been there for years then, but going anti-clockwise. We put it clockwise then, so that the player could be more familiar with his note then. So this in itself is revolutionary too then. Because you would find a man coming and looking for fifths going this way, going to the left, or ours goes to the right then. But I've done a lot of experimental work, and there's still a lot to come. You see, because right now I'm experimenting with sticks, so that would give you more notes than the average piano player. Then my sticks should be able to get a 13th easy, where a piano man the most he could get is a 10th. So we into sticks now for the pan, then, because we have pans designed for this type of things. Then.
Would you set up a keyboard or something like that?
Well, I did invent a pan to be played by what we call electromagnetics. But where I could have put a pan, as we sit in here then, I could rest the pan in Port Spain and play it. Once I have enough electrical wire hook up and thing, then proper batteries, and then a switchboard then. But people in Trinidad don't like changes when I say so. If the change thing, it had to come gradually, very slow then. You had to sneak up on them, you can't just release. So they would find that these pans were disallowed by the association, who's supposed to really help pan improve then. In fact, they were trying to keep it back then. So they just have a problem creating instruments for experimenting to make the pan much more easily played then. And people are stopping it. So, but that don't stop me here, because when I finish with my work here, I go up to Los Angeles and finish my experiment, which is much better to me then, because you asked about leadership just now, what is required to leave Desperados. Well, Desperados is still a militant band. It has been. I never changed it then, because if I did change it, you wouldn't feel the real true music from the men themselves then. When you hear Desperados, you hear an original Desperados. It's not an impression or a carbon copy of Desperados. It's like just like Desperados years ago. The rhythm, you could always feel it. And this because they are free up. I don't discipline them to a point where I say, you can't smoke, you little ganja, you can't do this, you can't do that. I have it free then. So a man who lead in Desperados have to be one, pretty smart, very intelligent. I mean, and then you have to be um, at times very militant, right? And at times a lawyer. At times this fatherly image too, because they look for. So a leader is like mostly hated and loved at the same time. Then, and you can't get away from that, you know. And but with Desperados, the certain requirement to be a leader up here, you have to be real good. Now, what happened with me, I was one of the leaders that were taught by the elders. So you could say I'm a young man, but have a 80-year-old brain then. So,
Yeah. Well, you can mention some of the names of the people who taught you.
well, the fellow you spoke about, Yates, who you interview, he was one, Wilfred Harrison, who they called speaker, Vanny Busby, next one of the elders, but mainly these three guys then that assist me along the way, because when I took Desperados, there's a lot of supposed to be violent fellas in the band then. And what make Desperados change so quick then is that I separate the goat from the sheep. My whole law was that if you want to be a bad man, you should live by it professionally. I mean, go and live by it. You can't be bad and want to beat pan too then. Although I still have violent fellas in the band, when I say violent nature, but they tranquilize the pans, maintain the cool, you know. So, but this is what make our drastic change. People is marvel and want to know how come Desperados was so violent there, then they make the change. Well, I make that change, that division then, that the bad man stays so and the pan man stays so. And I think it did work.
It certainly set a standard for pan in general. You mentioned going to Los Angeles. What basically do you do there? Because I know you have Bobby Greenwich out there, Roger Bethelmy, and a few other Trinidadians out there doing some work in it. What basically do you all do out there?
Well, most of the time I work for myself. When I say so, I do a little lecture demonstration. I do some for Cal State University. I do some pans for Berkeley School of Fine Arts, people who work in the Berkeley School of Fine Arts. And I'm now building a community band in Oakland, Frisco. Something that some government people who work with the United States government come down here then and see this type of environment Desperados fitted into and decide to experiment with a sort of community band in Oakland itself then. So I now working with this band, you know, and they have a lot of modern bands, good tone. So I'm occupied fully up there.
Right.
But most of my work is really experimenting at home then. I like to experiment. But I figure that you have to research in order to know where you're going to then.
Yeah. So give me a typical example of how you would experiment. You have a pan and you may want to experiment with a note and you get up or you would be thinking. How would you go about it?
Well, to describe this is going to be kind of difficult, but I'll make an attempt. Now, it have various ways you could go to think about the pan then. Like you could lie in bed and think about the pan and come up with a new idea. You could lie in bed and think about the pan and come up with a new technique for tuning. But the whole experimental process really only works when you get to the job then and start to tune the pan itself. It's in tuning the pan then that most of your ideas is perfected then. Most of your theory become practical because the pan is really the teacher, the instrument then. When you believe that you master the pan, something always happen on the pan, some friction or something that you never observed before. And so then you track it down. And because you want to know why this note sounds so different to the other note then. So it's the pan itself keep teaching you. So it looked like we are at a pitch where there's no end to this experiment as far as pan is concerned, and I think mainly it's because of the shape of the pan.
The shape of the pan. Why? Because it's symmetric.
Yeah, that's how tone comes off in any case, wrong. So it may have a lot to do. I had ideas to change the shape, but then after witnessing these amount of friction going on all the time, I decided to leave it as is right now. But probably later on I would try to see if I could get a pan away.
Square shape?
It may not be square. I have a lot of designs that I did since '68 then, and that I will probably put into practice now. But it's something about the drum, you see. People, although it's the wonder instrument then, people discard it because it's just an ordinary drum then. And I believe if we was to move it from there, then people would take up and take it seriously, you know. But it's very hard to remove because pan as an instrument, although it's harmonic overtone, it's beautiful. It's inharmonically tuned instrument. There's a lot of inharmonics on it.
Yeah.
You know, so the inharmonic relationship is the next thing that make it, although it's properly tuned. Then the inharmonics is what baffle people then, because it still come off nice. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
This is amazing. How best do you see the pan man get acting, or do you see the pan man attempting to present pan to be recognized as a viable instrument world over, and ever more here in Trinidad? I mean, if it, because why I'm saying this, if it wasn't, or if it was, Pan Trimbago would have been no problem for you to continue the exploration and so on.
Well, the first thing is that there's two ways you could go then. We could do as there was a great American educator, Malcolm X, and he said that we should all become individuals then and perfectionists in our own field and then merge together then. That probably only take a couple 100 years then. And then we could take it from, like how Jamaica take reggae from government level. Jamaica take reggae and sell it to the world because Jamaica was behind reggae. Trinidad is not behind pan. You see, and this is the difference between Jamaica and Trinidad. So I don't see any kind of improvement really for the pan man here. For you to make it, then they have to become individuals and go away and further the knowledge then. But pan is the way it is mainly because the government lack of interest. They try to put blame and say that it's the association and all this sort of thing, but the association is being run by primitive men, you know. So there's nothing they could do about it then, because the past leaders of the association always left a bad influence that if a fella is educated and not and from a fine family and all this type of different things, then you can't run the pan thing because they want to sell pan thing as still this gangster thing then. But we run past that stage long ago, man. And if they maintain this type of thing, then well, the pan ain't going no place. And it'll come like having a union that is not representing you. You see, but as far as the pan in itself, making something of itself then as an instrument and impact on the world, then the government will have to get behind it when I say 100%. And if they're going to do this, it will cost them millions of dollars. So rather than get involved, I think they are backing away and leaving it as is. But
what did Eric Williams do or contribute towards pan, and especially Desperados? Because there's, you know, you remember talk, I don't know if you were in Desperados at the time, in the 56 times, around independence times when he came on the scene. There was talk that he liked Desperados, he came on the hill here and so on. What was his role?
well, Williams was an educator. And I think he educated us in a way that nobody else could then, because he taught us in fact then to have tolerance, which was one of his guidelines then. Not to move too fast on a situation, then take your time and think. He taught us really to be kind of proud people then, because Laventille was discarded then as some of the scums of the earth, you know. You couldn't get credit in town, you couldn't go in the bank and borrow money. So I mean, we changed up that system from that angle then. But as far as government band, they say desperate government band, that's just a myth. Laventille is PNM. So Desperados is PNM because the both things work together then. But a lot of the bands get plenty better opportunities then with government, mainly because the leadership willing to bow worldly then. I don't bow. So then anything I want, I dictate the pace fit then. So you would find that idea that Desperados government band is myth. If it was government band, then we would probably win all the panorama. I wouldn't have no problem because I'm producing the quality music then, so then everything would have been automatic. But that is just myth. But we are sympathizers. I personally is a PNM sympathizer. I believe that Trinidad is one of the only country that don't have foreign influence then dictating the pace as far as government level is concerned. And I figure this is something that people should boast upon, you know, because most of the islands are already tampered with by foreign powers, and in Trinidad not so. If they could keep, this is a gift that Williams left with the people. Not only being self-sufficient, but also the independent in itself from foreign intervention. You see, so William didn't only teach us then. I think he taught the rest of the world that black men could come up and make system work. You see, his problem is that he stayed too long.
Yeah.
And I think this is a problem with black people right now. Or I've been trying to resign from Desperados for years. It's just that I can't find a replacement. But I think the problem with black people is when they get power. It's been so new to them in this modern world and that they don't like to transfer. The power is happening all over all over the world. Black men leading, and when they do get power, they set up themselves president for life, or something like that. I think it's because not having exposure to power then. So when they do come then, they don't like to let it go, you know.
Yeah.
Because there's certain joy in having power, you know. It's how you use it.
Right.
I know because I hold a power in my own way then. But it doesn't mean anything to me because I think power is for those who behold it. Then you either have it or you don't have it. And it's not just taking power and then utilizing, hang 2-3 people, you murder 4 or something like that. And if you behold power, then it never leaves you really. And you shouldn't frighten of. That's why I leave my band every year. Go up there early, I stay a couple months. If I want to come home, I come home. If they need me, I do come home then. But most of the time, I'm not afraid that they would have overthrown all these things. Because, I mean, we're going to overthrow for them. You know, so there's a whole different. But Williams taught Trinidad, not only Laventille then, and I think what he left, if people come here and check Trinidad out then, and see the type of system it have, the type of rent people is still paying, I mean poor people and things then you would see what legacy he left the place. And I mean, it's very unfortunate that he had us to go how we went then.
Yeah.
But he was one of the great black men that walked the earth.
Going back into the technology of pan, in 10 years from now, let's say 1990, where do you see pan? What do you see happening in terms of technology and pan?
Well, I've already taken part in the year 2000. I don't see 1990, but I run past that long time ago then. And when I introduced some of my ideas that they turned down then, it was for the year 2000. So I'm way ahead of my times then. There's why people inclined to say sometimes we play in stupidness because they don't understand what's going on then. We study the pan so much then that it become kind of sickening, you know. And I don't see, there's no finish at a teleto pan and you can't diagnose what is going to happen then. All you know is that there's no stopping it then. It's going to get better and better and better. And people are going to learn more, like every day you live and you're into the pan, you learn something new. Yeah. And once you put it into practice, once I don't get brain fatigue then, like I mean, really washed up then. Yeah. I see pan, I could take it the year 2200, I could put it there. I think that already then, the type of designs are left. Nobody could go beyond it then. You see?
Yeah. Somehow, Desper seems to be one of the only few bands whose some of their members happen to be top professionals in the world. We talk about Roger Bethelmy and Bobby Greenidge. Yeah. How are these things made possible?
Well, musicians then, things happen, like you meet a musician, you get to like the guy, you say, would you come and gig with me then? And he would say yes. Well, Roger Bethelmy was one of this guy. I heard him on record and by Robert. He played with Robert. He's from Trinidad, but grew in Jamaica. Right. And you know, Jamaicans produce good wailers then, good musicians too then. Yeah. So Roger was introduced into the band because I see the steel band lacking professionalism in certain field. And like you would find a steel band have a good professional pan player then, but he don't have a good drummer because he don't attach no importance to a good drummer. Yeah. With me, it was I always employ good drummer. Roger is not the first. I had Michael Tobias with me. I had a lot of professional drummers play with me. Von Rick Maynard, which is one of Michael's students. Yeah. So I always used to play to have professional drummers. And Laventille didn't only produce professional panmen, we produced professional footballers, professional cricketers like Pascal Roberts, and some other guys. We produce a lot of good people in various fields. Yeah. So it's not just pan. Right. So Bobby, Robert Greenidge, she's just another one of the professional panmen, but there are quite a few, not identical to him then, but there's quite a few on the hill right now. You've given him opportunity then to go. Yeah.
Women in your band, What role do you see them playing, and what role have they played?
Well, I think women in band add glamour to the band because it not only add glamour, it adds what we call equality then. Because in the world today, women are looking for rights. They want rights to drive big truck. They want rights to do everything then. And I figure they deserve the rights to beat pan if they want to play. And some of them is good players.
So what those behind the scene, like the wives, like your aunt, I mean, who had to endure, move trafficking in the house, preparation of meals, and all this sort of
Well,
thing?
they in their own way then they take part in the whole maneuver itself then, and like carnival and pan itself then it's like a war game. You always have to keep thinking out. It's a really old thing. They got another guy. It's a kind of game.
Throughout the history of Pan, in I would say in the last decade, during the Pan strike, I think it was 74.
Yeah, Pan strike was in 1979.
Okay, 79, right. All the bands didn't play on the stage. Despers alone played. Why?
Well, first to begin, the boycott in the initial stage was to boycott Panorama then, which I did with the other guys. I did boycott Panorama because they were asking for more money then. And I'm always on the economics. I would side with that then. And the people in South, it was a well-planned thing. The boycott in 1979 was a boycott plan in 78 that failed then. But there are a lot of politics in Pan then. And I don't apply the politics to it then. If it come around my way, I fight it then and get it exposed then. But when we play in 79, I play for two reasons. One, that was because of its setup then in the entirety then, the hill then. I have to play mass and pan is separated. Like people who bring mass and not the people who in charge of pan. I am in charge of the pan, but I have other people who bring the mass then. I'm in charge of the whole thing, but it's divided then. So a guy would have to pay me to play for him then. So if he pay me to pay, I have to deliver the band where he wanted because on those 2 days the band is under his control as far I am employed and I'm a musician then. And I have to play. This was one reason. The second reason is that I think the fellas had boycotted the Panorama and it proved it point then. And they shouldn't starve all these people, supporters and people from all over the world that came in to hear some pan. And I figured they was taking it too far then. After the boycott on Panorama, they then decide to call for a boycott on no beating pan in Savannah at all. But the boycott was to be the Panorama. And the other one came up after they see they were successful. And they were trying to see the Prime Minister and a whole set of stupidness. And they was making a whole political issue of it then. And I figured I don't play that kind of game then. I figured the people have a right to hear pan then. And I went up, I told the association I was going to play. I told them I'm a top play allies then, who I figure had allies in those days. I don't see that as having much allies, or none at all then, right now in the pan world then. Well, long ago we had some allies, bands that who decided to follow us. And
Like what band?
like Solo, like Tokyo, and we have allies like Jewel 22. But most of the guys, they didn't want to play because they have their own reasons then, and I have my own reasons too then. So these people in the association then who tried to destroy Carnival, because I figured it was an attempt after getting through with the Panorama then, an attempt to add Hamburg Carnival too then. And Carnival is meant for the real reason for having Carnival is to release tension. A lot of people who want to be king play king, and it's a sort of madness then. It's a release for people, and you can't take away Carnival from the people because Carnival is really the creator of pan. Without Carnival, pan would have never been here today, and a lot of people should pay respect to this. But again, the association in its wisdom then doesn't know these things. You see, so I decided to play. For my community and for my audience. And I went on stage and paid. No government didn't give me money to pay. Like people try to spread out for me. No Charles must have been paid something. I wasn't paid anything. You see, and
Okay, we move on down in history again. Despers went to court early on some time ago. Then the second time here, Despers comes and goes to court again. Many people, in fact, the public, I thought the whole world, the whole Trinidad, were against Despers. You all were booed on stage and so on. That must have demoralized the men while on stage.
No. The attitude for Trinidad booing Desperados is not because of court scene and all this thing. They always boss. They boo any of the great talented men then. That's because they don't understand and have no respect for their own talent then. They boo all stars this year when they couldn't get Desperados to boo. You probably were there.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't have nobody to boo. They boo all stars then. Who's the champ? They don't want to boo somebody who they can't feel good about them. Booing again is a carnival mentality where fellas release the anger that they probably would want to release the anger on somebody else. Instead, they release the anger on bands that have credibility to make them humiliate them.
Yeah.
But people who boo really go to the savannah to boo. You see, instead of us say, I'm going to Steelpan, but you see, I'm going and boo one or two bands today, boy, and get his head so. So, I mean, the booing don't hamburg us then because we've been booed before then.
Yeah.
We've always been booed. But it doesn't do anything to our music because you get accustomed. You know, as I say, I get a head off it, and you can see what happened with the boo. It turned to cheers on the final night.
Yeah.
Nobody boo. And in the end, I win out then because I speak through my music. I don't go on the old Desperados will commit violence, you know, pelt back bottle or boo there and get mad and thing. To get mad is to lose your cool, and to lose your cool then is to lose like everything. Yeah. And I am in Japan, and I love making the drums. You get a satisfaction that you can't get from nothing else. So if you love something, you got to live it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes even die for it too. So the booze and thing, it don't worry me, and because we could handle it.
Right. Your records, how are they going? How have your recordings been going? And every year you all try to put out an album. How have they been going?
Not good. But as far as I'm concerned, I haven't made a cent in recordings. All I managed to do is break even, pay off my investors then, like pay off the company. Because most of the time, Western and Tobacco or the sister company or the parent company pays for the, what we call the making of the record then, or the production of the record. They cover the costs. So time I finish cover paying them back then, it really is nothing inside. I might try 500 profit or something like that, but I don't make money from records because people don't support the local artists here. So for I to make money, I had to go out and buy records. I said before earlier, I brought in 2,500 records since in November, and I still have 500 records. And it's a long time. Look more of the records you see in there. See, but it's the people, and the people need educating. And the very thing you're watching at the Savannah and the approach to the entertainers, when a band take months and weeks practicing night and day and night and hours, sometimes 10, 15 hours a day, and people come and boo them and things. It's because the people don't understand what is going on then. They just don't understand, and no band shouldn't be booed. I'm not speaking about Desperados alone. I figure they should allow the bands to play. But that's the mentality of a Trinidadian. You would find if they have a cricket match here and West Indies against Australia, you would find they would boo our West Indian cricket and they would boo Australia and they would clap for Australia and they hit a nice six. They're going crazy. And nothing you could do. That's out there, you know. So something had to happen for them to get realized. They have to start digging their own thing then. And that's the thing that is wrong with Trinidad. I think the whole system is being marketed badly then, so that people really losing their identity then. The priority is off then. They list a priority. Instead of saying I would choose pan, they probably would choose reggae music then. And instead of choosing something else, they would choose something else, and that's how they are.
Complex nature of a Trinidadian.
Yeah. But you was on to the court scene. I go to court mainly because I don't want to fall into the same trap my older people fall into then. Because in the older days, they used to jail us, man. Come up here and pick us up by 2-3 dozen and put them in jail for a couple of weeks just like that, you know. Because fellas had to steal in those days to exist. So I would use the system for the work for me then. So in 75, I took the same CDC to court and win them. And in 1980, the same thing. Accumulated, only this trip, I had accumulated enough points to go to the Panorama, and they threw me out because I didn't play. When they asked me to play then, before time then, and I asked them, well, if they want me to play before time, let me have at least one of the band preparation time, which is about 20 minutes to set up my pants. Because I always in the Savannah early, the night before I send my pants down. bands always come late then. We are never late then. But they try to make it look bad for us. They ask us for a favor and they always try to fight that stuff because we are law under ourselves then. We set our own precedent, our own examples then. And if we find people doing shit, we don't stick it, you know. So in 75, they try on us. Then the same association, which should represent us then, I had to take them to court. Because they were trying to throw me out of competition. And I tell you, my whole medium of going to Panorama is to show people what we could do with pans. It's the only real reason then, because it's not economically profitable at all. You don't make money in Panorama. No band can make money in Panorama, not only Desperados. Say like my band, $60-something thousand to put it by on the road. I walking around with at least 250,000 motor equipment on the road then. And you're going for $26,000 to play, to win. I mean, that whole pack of shit. And then get in the violent rage for this too then. It just doesn't, it just doesn't work that way, you know. So I take the system and I take the system and I go to court. If I lose, I would take the losses. If I win, well then they have to take their losses. And that's how it is. So, and I was very fortunate that I won on both occasions. But the same CDC that, yeah.
Does your sponsor or the sponsorship of the steel band help out in any way? I mean, really make it worth it having sponsorship?
Yeah, without sponsors you can't exist. Without sponsors you can't pay to tune parts. You can't pay your arrangers. You can't have no maintenance of the band at all. It's very unfortunate that you can pay the band men themselves too then. But then you're going to need millions of dollars then. But sponsorship should be like that. And it should be written off by government then. You see, they should encourage sponsors to pay the band small salaries and write it off of their revenue then from the tax, from the sponsors itself, because the government is not doing the sponsors a favor. The sponsors are doing Steelpan a greater favor than government. They are taking more active part then in developing Steelpan than government itself. As far as the development of Steelpan is concerned, the Trinidad government has done nothing to develop PAN. PAN has been developed mainly through the sponsorship like Western and Tobacco and other bands who have the type of sponsors that we have then that would spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on them. But as far as you can't, sponsorship could always be better. But I see it as a necessity when I say so. It's just like having a fridge in your house. If you don't have a sponsor, you're dead. Simple as that. You can't go no place.
Rudolph, I've been asking everyone this that I've interviewed for this project, The Evolution of Pan. What are some of the things that you would like to see documented as one tells the evolution of Pan?
Well, to sell Pan in its entirety, then you would have to do a real, like a guy asked for a holograph of a Pan the other day. And I tell him to do something like that. You have to go right back to the sink in the groove and everything then. You can't determine then, as I told you already, the origin of Pan then, how it started and what it has reached to. It's two different things entirely then. Because if you go back to the old time tuning, they used to push the notes up. The concaves and them used to be up in the air. And now it's down. A fella came up, early man, it came up and pressed it down. And the Pan remained that way since then. So he is one of the greatest contributors to Pan then. But you can't diagnose then and say, well, look, I could make a guesstimate and say in the year so and so this would happen then. And it may happen then. But no one could be sure. You really can't be sure. And, for the Pan to develop then, it had to have a proper marketing plan then. Another marketing plan from outside alone. It have to be a sort of togetherness by government and business then to help push Pan as an instrument on the world. But no one could diagnose accurately then. You had to deal with what we say approximation then. And that is what I've been doing all the years.
Well, Rudolph, I wish you the best of luck in your continued experimentations and inventions. And you have been a great inspiration to many Pan people throughout the world. And I urge you to continue doing that.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
My guest?
I'm definitely going to continue.
My guest has been Rudolph Charles, the leader of Desperados Steel Orchestra. and we've been chatting about Pan, his contributions, his inventions, the technology of Pan, and several other items within this total evolution. This is Von Martin.